Section 4. I like section 4 because it's all about conflicts and battles, and I love battles. So we already talked about nature versus nurture, but we're going to talk about stability versus change, typical development versus individual variation, critical period versus sensitive periods, universal development versus cultural variation. So what is nature? Nature is all about biology and genes, and nurture is all about environment. This battle is about how genes or environment can shape child development and who gonna be the winner here. So there is no winner here because this is all about interaction between these two factors. We already mentioned the example of Rihanna. While she had the genes, but her environment wasn't really good, but she eventually made it. However, in, for example, Beyonce's child, the child has everything, and we can see that the both nature and nurture, they do have the same value, so they can flourish anyway. So it depends on the research question, one of them or both of them might be impactful in the child development. What about the stability versus change? So first of all, we should understand that what is a stability? Stability is just some sort of skills that you acquired already. For example, you're gonna be born as with like some specific characteristics, right? Every newborn has its own characteristics, and you can see their personality even from the beginning. What about change? Those innate biological tendencies gonna change over time, and they might, I mean, the changes might be abrupt. Um, for example, you might be a stubborn child, an arrogant child by nature, and showed this pattern from the beginning. But as you grow up, you learn to be more flexible because you are working in Walmart customer service and you know that there might be some crazy people out there and you have to be nice to them. So you kind of learn to manage that sort of being stubborn and being arrogant in some ways. What about typical development and individual change? For typical development, we are considering the child compared to the average children in the population, which called normative. What about idiographic? Idiographic is about considering each child in a unique way. For example, if you have a gifted child in your program, in your class, you would just consider that child to themselves because you know that every child is unique. However, if, for example, you want to just test a student's ability in reading, you're going to compare them based on the whole class. For example, you know that if your teaching method was good, if everyone would be A or A plus. However, if the majority of the class would get B, you cannot, or like even C or D, you can understand that maybe something is wrong with your teaching method. So again, it is just depending on the particular developmental question. What about critical period versus sensitive period? Critical period means like you have a certain time span that you have to develop an ability. And if you don't do that, you cannot understand or acquire that ability anyway, like whatsoever. You cannot just acquire that at all. A sensitive period means like, yes, there is some sort of period for acquiring some sort of ability. However, you can acquire that ability later if you would work hard. You can see it here. For example, here in preschool years, children in general can just pick up any sort of abilities, but as they grow up, it is just harder for them. Is that true? Is this like critical periods or sensitive periods? There might be actually, because there are some evidence. It seems like acquiring language, especially syntax, it is so hard after passing some certain age. So there might be actually a critical period for language learning. A good example of that is Genie. You should read her story in the book. She actually has a very sad story. But yeah, long story short, she was, I guess, 13 or 14 that rescued by a team of researcher. She couldn't speak at all because she was basically prisoned by her parents. A team of psychologists and linguistics, they tried to like teach her syntax and language, but she couldn't grasp anything. So eventually, after some point, the whole team they gave up, and Jeannie also forgot the whole language syntax and vocabulary. She ended up to be uneducated the whole time. What about universal development versus cultural variation? Universal development gonna be some sort of a specific pattern designated by biology. For example, all children, they're gonna just babble in 8 months. However, for example, Vietnamese babbling is just different from American infants, which is so funny. You have to just YouTube that because like you can hear and it's just so interesting. Like the way children, like infants, they are trying to just babble to different phonemes. It's just so crazy interesting. But so babbling gonna be some universal pattern. However, cultural differences gonna be based on each culture's goal. So here, I would ask you, which one gonna be winner? Universal development or cultural variation? Which one is more important? Which one can impact child development better? I would ask you to actually think about this and see which one might be important or more important. But I guess you got the pattern so far, so you can just answer it by yourself.